Rain poured hard over the empty highway as a luxury black sedan rolled to a stop, steam rising from its hood. Inside sat Clara Hayes, a young billionaire CEO known for her brilliance, arrogance, and ruthless efficiency. The world saw her as untouchable, a woman made of steel, built from boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. But tonight, stranded in the middle of nowhere with no cell signal, her perfect image was cracking. She slammed the steering wheel in frustration, muttering under her breath. That's when a pair of headlights emerged through the storm. A rusted pickup truck slowed beside her car. The door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, rugged, wearing a soaked flannel shirt and jeans covered in engine grease. A little boy sat inside the truck, watching silently through the rain-streaked window. "Need some help, ma'am?" the man asked, voice calm and grounded. Clara looked him over, clearly not the type she'd ever speak to at her level of society. But she had no choice. "It's overheating," she said sharply. He nodded, grabbed a toolbox from his truck, and went to work. Within minutes, he had the engine humming again. Clara stood under the rain, shivering, watching his hands move with quiet confidence. "You're good at this," she admitted reluctantly. He smiled faintly. "Been fixing things my whole life. Trucks, bikes, parts, anything that's broken, I guess." His name was Jake Turner, a single dad living just outside the small town she'd unknowingly driven through. When he finished, she offered money, a thick roll of cash from her designer purse. But he shook his head. "Not everything's about money, Miss CEO." The way he said it, calm, kind, but piercing, hit her harder than she expected that night. Clara couldn't shake the image of the man and his boy driving off into the storm. Something about their simplicity, their quiet strength, stirred something long buried in her. She didn't know then, but that encounter would unravel secrets she'd spent her entire life avoiding. Days later, Clara's company announced a new expansion into rural industries. By coincidence, or maybe fate, her team identified a struggling truck repair business in the same small town. When she arrived to inspect it, she froze. Standing outside the workshop was Jake, wiping grease from his hands. His son, Tommy, ran around with a toy car. "You again," she said, half amused, half intrigued. "Guess fate's got a sense of humor," Jake replied, that same quiet smile playing on his lips. Clara's team discussed business, but her focus stayed on Jake. There was something magnetic about how he listened, how he treated his employees, not as workers, but as people. Later that day, she asked to see the office and was surprised to find pictures on the wall, Jake with his late wife, and another, a photo that made her heart stop. It was her father, smiling beside a younger Jake. "Where did you get that?" she demanded. Jake turned serious. "I think we need to talk." They sat down in the small, dusty office as rain tapped gently on the roof. Jake sighed. "Your father, Richard Hayes, he wasn't just my mentor. He saved my life when I was 16. Took me in when I had nowhere to go. But he also had secrets." Clara leaned forward, tension in her eyes. "What kind of secrets?" Jake hesitated, then slid a faded letter across the table. "He left this for you. Said if we ever met, I should give it to you." Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. The letter revealed the truth. Her father had a second family, a child born out of a mistake he'd spent his life regretting not acknowledging. The child was Jake. The man sitting across from her was her half-brother. The silence was deafening. Clara's breath caught, tears threatening to fall. "You're lying," she whispered. But Jake simply shook his head. "I wish I was. He told me about you, how proud he was, how much he wanted to tell you but didn't want to ruin what you'd built. He slid over a worn pendant with her father's initials carved on it. He gave me this before he died. Said one day I'd meet the other half of his legacy." Clara's world collapsed. For years, she'd resented her father's absences, his secrets. Now, sitting before the man she judged as poor and ordinary, she realized he carried the same blood and the same pain. "You could have used this," she said, voice cracking. "You could have blackmailed me, taken everything." Jake smiled softly. "I didn't want your money. I just wanted to keep his promise that one day, we'd fix what was broken." Tears fell freely now. For the first time, Clara didn't feel like a CEO, she felt like a daughter. Like a sister. She looked at the little boy playing outside and smiled through the tears. "He's got your father's eyes," Jake said quietly. Clara nodded. "Maybe this time, we can be the family he wanted us to be." Months later, the two worked together to expand Jake's small workshop into a nationwide program helping single parents rebuild their lives through skilled trades. The story of the millionaire CEO and the small-town mechanic spread like wildfire, not because of money, but because of what it represented: redemption, unity, and the power of second chances. As the sun set over the dusty road where they'd first met, Clara placed her father's pendant in Jake's hand. "You fixed my car," she said softly, "but you also fixed something much bigger: you fixed me." Jake looked at her, smiling that same humble smile. "Guess that's what family's for." And for the first time, Clara felt free, not as a billionaire, but as someone who finally understood what truly mattered: not wealth, but connection; not power, but love.